We start working with percents, and I know some of these ideas you may have seen before, but if I talk about a percent like 43%, 43%, if I were to write that as a fraction, does anybody know how we would write it? 43 over 100, very good. Percents are always relating something to 100. So if you got a 43% on a test, hopefully not, but if you did, that means you got 43 out of a possible 100. Now, there's another way that we can write this, and that's as a decimal. I could write this as 0.43. And in the fall, we learned how to say that decimal, and it really does make sense. If I want to say this decimal, wouldn't I say 43 hundredths, right? Well, look, there is 43 hundredths. It does make sense. So the first thing you're going to be asked to do is they're going to tell you to write the number as a percent. They're going to give you a number and they want you to write it as a percent, like 0.39. Well, based on the example I just did, if I wanted to say that number, wouldn't it be 39 hundredths? So this thing as a percent is what? 39%. Okay? 39%. Pretty easy. Let's do another one. What if they gave it to you this way? 9 out of 100, that would be 9%. Or maybe they give you a decimal like this one, 0.067. What would that be as a percent? Well, remember what I told you when we were up here is I said we basically took this decimal and we moved it 2 places to the left. I should have went the other direction. You start here and you go 2 places to the left. All right? That's if I wanted to change a percent to a decimal. So if I want to change a decimal to a back to a percent, I have to move it 2 places to the right. So if I move this decimal 2 places to the right, what do I have? 6.7%. All right. Let's go on to another type of problem. What if they ask you to write the percent? Now they're giving you the percent and they want you to write it as a decimal and B as a fraction. So they're wanting you to write it in 2 ways. They're going to give you the percent. They want you to write it both as a decimal and as a fraction. So let's say that you have 80%. Well, writing it as a decimal is easy, right? What would this be as a decimal? 0.80. You move it 2 places to the left. All right? So there it is as a decimal. Well, writing it as a fraction, if it's a percent, isn't it over 100? Okay, so this is the first answer. The second answer would be 80 over 100. But I believe they want you to reduce that fraction. Is 80 over 100 reduced? It's not. Can't I divide them both by 10? If I divide them both by 10, I get 8 over 10, which will reduce again, won't it? Divide them both by 2, and you get 4/5. Now we have correctly written it as a fraction. All right? Now, I want you to understand the point of these percents. Look at this 4/5. What that basically means is, let's say that you are shooting your bow, practicing for bow season, and you hit the target 4 out of 5 times. Right? If you hit the target 4 out of 5 times, that means that you hit it 80% of the time. Okay, so you need to understand that a regular fraction, 4 out of 5, can be translated into a percent. Let's do another one. How about 6%? Well, let's write it as a decimal first. What would this be as a decimal? 0.06. That's the first answer. You have to move it 2 places to the left. It's not 0.6, it's 0.0. That's the first answer. The second answer is 6 over 100. Will that reduce? Yeah, well, can I divide them both by 2? This would be 3 out of 50. All right, 3 out of 50. Now, this next one, sometimes people struggle with. What if they gave you 32.5? 32.5%. Now, writing it as a decimal is still pretty easy. If you write it as a decimal, remember you just move it 2 places to the left. And if I move this 2 places to the left, then I have 0.325. That's the answer to the decimal part. Now, writing it as a fraction is a little bit different, though, because I don't want to write 32.5 out of 100. That's kind of messed up. So what you do on this problem is I use my answer from A to write it as a fraction. We worked on reading decimals in the fall. If I read that decimal, isn't this 325 thousandths? There's your fraction for this problem. So even though it's a percent, we can still write it over 1,000, all right, because it's a different kind of percent. It's a partial percent with this decimal here. So we write it as 325 over 1,000. If you get one of those that are over 1,000, I'm not going to make you reduce it. Okay, this is okay right here. The last thing they're going to ask you to do real quick is to compare. And they're going to give you something like 30% compared to 0.03. Okay? So what you have to do is get them both in the same form so you can compare them. Can't I write 30% as a decimal? What is it as a decimal? 0.30. So if I was comparing 0.30 to 0.03, which one would be bigger? This one here. So you're going to use a greater than, less than sign, so it should have been the one on the left is greater than the one on the right. And we're going to stop there for today.